Farcine 1. The great chamber hung in the silent dark above Xylos Prime, a ring of polished alloy and glowing panels spinning slowly against the starfield. Inside, delegates from 17 species sat in tiered arcs, their faces lit by soft blue light. Some had scales, others feathers. A few wore breathing masks or floated in nutrient-filled globes. All watched the center of the room, where Speaker Varel of the Qatari stood tall on his slender legs, his 4 eyes fixed on the human ambassador. Daniel Brooks sat alone in the Terran section, his uniform crisp, his hands folded in his lap. He did not fidget. He did not blink more than necessary. He simply listened as Varel's voice, translated through the chamber's system, filled the air with cold, measured words. "The Terran Empire has grown too fast," Varel said. "Its fleets multiply. Its colonies spread like fire through dry grass. It builds warships in hidden yards and stations armed satellites along neutral lanes. This cannot continue," a murmur passed through the chamber. Some delegates nodded. Others shifted in their seats. The Veltron envoy tapped a clawed finger against her console, eyes narrowed. "For 112 standard cycles," Varel continued, "the Galactic Council has maintained peace through balance. Humanity was welcomed into this order after the Sol Accords. But now, Earth's ambition threatens that balance. Therefore, by unanimous vote of this council, we issue this ultimatum." He paused. The lights dimmed slightly, as if the room itself held its breath. Within 30 solar days, the Terran Empire must dismantle all military installations beyond the Proxima border. It must surrender full control of the Helios shipyards to council oversight, and it must accept permanent inspection of its fleet deployments by the Peacekeeping Directorate. Failure to comply will be seen as an act of aggression against the collective peace. Silence followed. Heavy, final. Daniel Brooks rose slowly. He did not look at Varel. He looked at the stars beyond the transparent dome above. Earth was not visible from here, too far, too small, but he imagined it anyway. The oceans, the cities, the quiet farms in Kansas where he'd grown up. He thought of Empress Lydia Grant, waiting in her command center beneath the moon, watching this very moment through secure feed. "I hear your words, Speaker," Brooks said, his voice calm, clear, and steady. "I will carry them home." He did not argue. He did not protest. He simply bowed his head slightly, turned, and walked out of the chamber. The doors hissed shut behind him, cutting off the stares of the alien delegates. On the shuttle back to his orbital residence, Brooks stared out the window. His reflection looked tired. He was 52, with streaks of gray in his dark hair and lines around his eyes that hadn't been there 5 years ago. He had believed once that humanity could earn its place through cooperation. Now he wondered if respect had to be taken, not given. Meanwhile, deep beneath the surface of the moon, in a room carved from solid basalt and shielded by layers of lead and quantum dampeners, Empress Lydia Grant watched the recording of the ultimatum for the 3rd time. She sat in a high-backed chair, her hands resting on the arms, her expression unreadable. Around her, advisors stood in silence. Generals, scientists, diplomats, all waiting for her to speak. She was 49, with sharp eyes and a voice that could soften a child or silence a war room. She had become Empress after the Mars uprising, not by birth, but by the will of a fractured Earth that needed unity more than democracy. And she had delivered it not with speeches, but with results. 30 days, she said finally, her voice low. They give us 30 days to kneel. General Harlan Pike, head of Terran Strategic Command, stepped forward. "We're not ready for full war, Your Majesty. Not against the combined fleets. We won't need to fight them all," Lydia replied. "Only enough to make the rest think twice." Dr. Nina Patel, the lead scientist on quantum shielding, cleared her throat. "The new phase barriers are stable. We can deploy them on the Ayers-class dreadnoughts within 2 weeks." "And the Ort shipyards?" Lydia asked. 8 new hulls are near completion," said Fleet Coordinator Owen Briggs, "all stealth-coated. All armed with the new Rail Lance batteries." Lydia nodded. She rose and walked to the large hollow display at the center of the room. It showed a map of human-controlled space. Blue dots for colonies, red for military outposts, green for trade lanes. Beyond the Proxima border, the red dots clustered thickly. "They think we'll fold," she said. "They think we're still the species that begged for a seat at their table." She turned to face them all. "We're not begging anymore." Back on Xylos Prime, Daniel Brooks sent his official report. It was brief, factual, no emotion, but in a private channel encrypted with a cipher only the Empress and her inner circle could open, He added 3 words. They fear us. That night, Earth's night side glittered under cloud cover. In Chicago, a boy looked up at the sky and pointed to a moving star, actually a Terran patrol cruiser returning from the Kuiper Belt. In Nairobi, engineers worked double shifts at the orbital lift, loading crates marked agricultural supplies that were in truth missile guidance units. In Buenos Aires, school children recited the Terran pledge, their voices rising together in unison. No one knew war was coming. Not yet. But the air felt different, charged like before a storm. On the bridge of the Air's Vanguard, docked in lunar orbit, Captain Eli Dawson ran diagnostics on the main cannon. He was younger than his brother, the fleet admiral, but just as sharp. He'd lost friends in the border skirmishes with the Veltron scouts last year. He didn't hate aliens, but he didn't trust them either. They gave us an order. He muttered to his first officer, a woman named Lena Cruz. Like we're children. Lena checked the power grid readouts. Orders don't mean much when you've got teeth. Eli smiled faintly. Then it's a good thing we've been growing ours. Far away on a quiet hill outside Denver, an old man named Henry sat on his porch, sipping coffee as dawn broke over the Rockies. He'd served on the first Mars colony ship. He remembered when humanity's biggest worry was running out of water. Now they were arguing with star empires. He looked up as a fleet of Terran interceptors streaked across the sky, leaving white trails in the morning blue. He didn't flinch. He just nodded as if to say, about time. And in the war room beneath the moon, Empress Lydia Grant gave the first quiet order of what would become known as Operation Iron Dawn. Not with a shout. Not with fury. Just a single sentence spoken softly into a comm unit. Begin the silent mobilization. The galaxy had issued its ultimatum. Humanity was already answering. Part 2. While the Galactic Council still believed humanity would hesitate, the Terran Empire moved like a shadow through the dark. No grand announcements were made. No emergency broadcasts lit up the public channels. Instead, orders flowed through secure lines encrypted and brief. Factories that once built cargo haulers now assembled plasma turrets. Mining stations near Neptune redirected their output to military depots. On Mars, the great domes of the new Ares shipyards glowed day and night as crews worked in shifts, welding armor plates onto hulls that bore no registry numbers. Fleet Admiral Carl Dawson stood on the observation deck of Lunar Command, watching a line of destroyers undock and vanish into the black. His face was calm, but his mind raced through logistics, fuel counts, crew readiness. He had spent 30 years in the service, rising from a cadet on a border patrol to the highest rank in the Terran Navy. He knew war was not won by courage alone, but by preparation. And Earth had been preparing longer than anyone guessed. His younger brother, Captain Eli Dawson, was already aboard the Air's Vanguard, leading the first wave of the Silent Fleet. They would not strike yet, not until every piece was in place. But they would be ready. On Titan, journalist Maya Ruiz noticed something strange. The usual freighters that brought food and medicine to the colony had stopped arriving. In their place came heavy transports with no markings, guarded by armed soldiers in black uniforms. When she asked questions, her access pass was revoked. Her editor told her to drop the story. But Maya had grown up in the slums of Rio, where silence meant danger. She kept digging. She found a dock worker willing to talk over a cup of synthetic coffee in a back alley diner. They're loading warheads, the man whispered. Not for drills, real ones. And they're sending them out on civilian hulls. Makes them harder to spot on long-range scans. Maya recorded his words on a hidden chip. She knew publishing this could get her arrested, or worse. But if the council thought Earth was backing down, someone needed to show the truth. Not to panic people, but to prepare them. Back on Earth, life went on as if nothing had changed. Children went to school. Markets bustled. Trains ran on time. But beneath the surface, the Empire shifted like a sleeping giant waking up. In hidden bunkers under the Rockies, AI cores processed battle simulations. In orbit, repair drones swarmed over older cruisers, upgrading their shields and weapons. Even the weather satellites had been fitted with signal jammers just in case. Empress Lydia Grant visited a training base in Alaska. Snow fell lightly as she walked among rows of young recruits, their faces sharp with focus. She stopped to speak with a squad learning zero-gravity combat. None of them saluted. Protocol had been suspended for realism. One of them, a girl named Jess from Oregon, asked her straight out, "Are we going to war, Your Majesty?" Lydia looked at her, then at the others. "We don't want war," she said. "But if it comes, we will not be the ones who flinch." The recruits nodded. They didn't cheer. They didn't need to. They understood. Meanwhile, on Xylos Prime, Ambassador Daniel Brooks played his part. He attended every council meeting, listened politely, and offered vague assurances about ongoing internal reviews. He smiled when expected, frowned when appropriate. The other delegates believed him, or wanted to. They told themselves humanity was stalling, not preparing. That made them feel safer, but Varel was not fooled. He watched Brooks too closely, noted the slight tension in his jaw during certain discussions. Still, without proof, he could not convince the others to act sooner. The Veltron envoy even suggested giving Earth more time to adjust. The Council, so used to obedience from younger species, could not imagine defiance. That was their mistake. In the Oort cloud, far beyond the reach of most scanners, 8 new dreadnoughts powered up their drives for the first time. Their hulls were matte black, their engines tuned to emit minimal heat. They carried no names, only numbers. But their crews called them the Iron Fleet. Among them was the Iris Vanguard, now painted in stealth gray, its rail lance batteries humming with stored energy. Captain Eli Dawson stood on the bridge, arms crossed, watching his crew run final checks. Lena Cruz reported from engineering. "Phase shielding is online. We can bend light around the hull for short bursts, enough to slip past early warning nets." "Good," Eli said. "We won't need to hide forever, just long enough to choose where the first shot is fired." He thought of his brother coordinating everything from the moon. He thought of the Empress, who had trusted them with this moment. And he thought of the boy in Chicago who'd pointed at the sky, not knowing he was watching the edge of a storm. On Earth, Maya Ruiz finally sent her report. Not through official channels. She used an old smuggler's data relay, bouncing the signal through 3 dead satellites before it reached an independent news hub in the belt. Within hours, fragments appeared online. Mystery ships leaving Titan, Mars yards working triple shifts, military convoys rerouted through civilian lanes. The Terran government issued a denial, calling it baseless speculation, but the public didn't panic. Instead, something quieter happened. People checked their emergency kits. Families reviewed evacuation plans. Volunteers signed up for civil defense units. It wasn't fear, it was readiness. Even Senator Paul Green, known for his calls for peace, visited the Empress in private. "If we're going to do this," he said, "let it be clean. No cities, no civilians. Just the machines of war," Lydia agreed. "We fight to protect our people, not to become monsters." Out in the void, the Iron Fleet began to move. Not toward Earth, not toward Xylos Prime. They spread out, vanishing into the folds of space between stars, waiting for the signal. Back on Titan, Maya packed a small bag. She knew the authorities would come for her soon, but she also knew she'd done what mattered. Truth was a weapon, too. As night fell over Denver, the old man named Henry stepped onto his porch again. This time he saw no ships, but he felt it, the quiet hum in the air, the weight of something coming. He sipped his coffee and smiled. They had given Earth an ultimatum. Now Earth was answering in actions, not words. Part 3. The first strike came not with fire, but with silence. At 0314 Terran Standard Time, 3 key Galactic Council relay stations, Orion Relay Alpha, Helios Drift Node, and the Xylos Outer Beacon, went dark. No explosions, no distress calls. Just a sudden total loss of signal. For 17 minutes, the Council thought it was a system glitch. Then they realized the truth. Humanity had cut their eyes and ears. The attacks were precise. Small teams in stealth shuttles had boarded each station under cover of solar interference. They disabled power cores, erased navigation logs, and planted data scramblers that would take weeks to remove. No one was killed. The station crews were locked in secure quarters with food, water, and a single message on every screen. This is not war. This is warning. But the Council saw it as betrayal. Speaker Varel called an emergency session within the hour. His voice shook with rage. They struck without declaration, without honor. The Veltron envoy argued for caution. They left our people alive. That is not the act of invaders. But it was too late. Pride had been wounded. Orders flew across the galaxy. Council fleets began to gather near the Helios Drift, the largest of the disabled relays. They expected Terran ships to appear soon, bold and loud. They were wrong. Instead, the Terran Empire waited and watched. 3 days later, the real blow fell. Not on a station, not on a planet, but on the Council's pride. A combined Cathari-Veltron armada, 12 capital ships, 30 escorts, patrolled the edge of human space, daring Earth to respond. They broadcast their position openly as if inviting a fight. They got one. From the dark between two icy dwarf planets, the Iron Fleet emerged. No warning, no challenge, just the sudden flash of rail lance fire streaking across the void. The lead Cathari dreadnought, the Sword of Unity, lost its main reactor in the first volley. Shields failed. Hull cracked. It drifted dark and broken before its crew could even sound alarms. Admiral Carl Dawson watched from Lunar Command as the battle unfolded on his main screen. His fleet moved like a single mind, dreadnoughts holding the line, destroyers darting in and out like wolves, fighters swarming in tight formations. The Council ships were larger, older, built for show more than war. Their targeting systems lagged. Their coordination was slow. Captain Eli Dawson stood on the bridge of the Ares Vanguard, shouting orders over the hum of weapons charging. Target their command spire. Take out their comms. No need to kill if we can blind. Lena Cruz reported from engineering. Phase shielding holding. We're bending their scans right around us. Good, keep them guessing. In less than 6 hours it was over. 12 Council capital ships disabled or destroyed. Dozens of escorts scattered or captured. The Terran Empire lost 2 frigates, both scuttled by their own crews to keep new tech from falling into enemy hands. No civilian ships were near. No colonies threatened. It was a clean, brutal lesson. Then Empress Lydia Grant did something no one expected. She opened a public channel, wideband, unencrypted, broadcast across every system that could receive it. Her face appeared on screens from Xylos Prime to the farthest mining outposts of the Zenthari Syndicate. "We do not seek dominion over others," she said, her voice calm but firm. "We built our homes on a world that gave us nothing but rock and storm. We learned to survive. Then we learned to reach for the stars. We asked only for a place among you, not above you, not below you. Beside you." She paused, her eyes steady. "But you gave us an ultimatum. You told us to kneel. We will not kneel. Not to fear. Not to pride. Not to old rules written before we even left our cradle." She ended the broadcast without fanfare. No music, no slogans, just silence. On Xylos Prime, the council chamber erupted. Some delegates demanded immediate retaliation. Others sat in stunned silence. Varel slammed his fist on the table. "She mocks us." But the Veltron envoy stared at the empty screen where Lydia's face had been. "No," she said softly. "She warns us." Back on Earth, people gathered in streets and plazas, not cheering, but quiet. They had seen the footage of the battle, clean, fast, efficient. They had heard their empress speak not of conquest, but of dignity. A boy in Chicago told his mother, "We didn't start it, but we finished it." On Mars, workers paused on the dome's walkways, looking up at the stars as if seeing them differently now. On Titan, Maya Ruiz watched the broadcast from a safe house. She felt a strange pride, not for war, but for the fact that her people had chosen to stand, not beg. In the Belt, independent miners who had long resented council tariffs sent quiet messages to Terran outposts. "Need fuel? We've got extra. Spare parts? Take what you need." No formal alliance. Just respect, earned in steel and silence. Even the Zenthari Syndicate, known for neutrality, rerouted 3 of their trade convoys to avoid council patrols, effectively opening a backdoor supply line to Terran forces. Admiral Carl Dawson allowed himself one moment of relief before returning to work. The victory was real but fragile. The council still had more ships, more allies, more time, but now they also had doubt. And doubt was a weapon. Captain Eli Dawson ordered the Ares Vanguard to retreat to a hidden refit point near Neptune. His crew was tired but proud. They had faced the galaxy's finest and held their ground. As the ship slipped into the shadow of a gas giant, Lena Cruz handed him a cup of coffee. "We showed them," she said. "We showed them we're not what they thought," Eli replied. "Now they have to decide. Keep fighting, or start listening. On Earth, Empress Lydia walked alone through the gardens beneath the lunar spire. The artificial trees swayed in a soft breeze. She thought of the lives lost, Terran and alien. She wished it hadn't come to this. But wishes didn't build empires. Resolve did. The galaxy had tested humanity, and humanity had answered, not with rage but with steel, silence, and truth. Part 4. The defeat at Helios Drift did not just cost the Galactic Council ships, it cost them trust. Within days, whispers turned to arguments, and arguments turned to open conflict among the member species. The Veltron delegation accused the Kethari of pushing for war to distract from their own economic troubles. The smaller races, the Lyran, the Quor, the Mindari, began to question why they should bleed for a council that had never truly listened to them. On the agri-world of Nalthus, crowds gathered outside the council consulate shouting for an end to mandatory conscription. "We grow food, not soldiers," one farmer yelled, holding up a handful of grain like a weapon. Back on Xylos Prime, the unity that had held the council together for over 300 years began to crack like old glass. Emergency sessions ran late into the night, voices rising, translators struggling to keep up. Speaker Varel demanded full mobilization, but half the chamber refused to vote. The Veltron envoy Mira Solon stood and declared, "We did not join this council to become tools of Kethari pride." Meanwhile, the Terran Empire did not press its advantage. No new attacks came. No colonies were seized. Instead, Earth waited. And in that silence, something unexpected grew: curiosity. Neutral systems that had once ignored human broadcasts now tuned in. Traders who avoided Terran space began asking questions. Even former rivals sent quiet feelers through back channels. The Zenthari Syndicate, long known for its cold pragmatism, offered to host peace talks if Earth would agree to attend. On Earth, not everyone celebrated. In the Senate chambers beneath Geneva, Senator Paul Green stood before his peers, his voice heavy with concern. "Victory is not peace," he said. "We showed them we can fight. Now we must show them we can reason. If we push too hard, we turn every neutral system against us." Empress Lydia Grant listened from the back of the room, unseen. She agreed with him more than he knew. But she also knew that trust had to be earned twice, once to prove you were strong, and again to prove you were fair. Then came the footage. It arrived through a smuggler's relay from Xylos Prime, grainy, encrypted, but undeniable. It showed Terran scouts, captured after a failed recon mission near the Council's outer perimeter, being interrogated in a dim cell. One of them, a young woman named Tessa Lynn, was barely 20. Her uniform was torn, her face bruised. A Kethari officer pressed a neural probe to her temple, demanding fleet coordinates. She refused. Again and again she refused. The video spread like wildfire, not through official channels, but through private networks, trader comms, even school terminals in the belt. People watched in silence. Then in anger, then in resolve. Maya Ruiz, still hiding on Titan, saw it in a backroom cafe. She didn't write a story this time. She didn't need to. The truth spoke for itself. Within hours, protests erupted on neutral worlds. "No torture in the name of peace," read one sign on the moon of Ceres. "Council laws for all or none," said another on the trade hub of Vexus. The council tried to deny it, called it faked. But the Kethari officer's face was clear, his badge number visible, and the Terran scout's voice, calm, steady, unbroken, was unmistakable. Empress Lydia addressed the public again, this time from the gardens of the lunar spire. No grand stage. Just her, standing among blooming synth roses, speaking plainly. "We do not hate the galaxy," she said. "We only ask to be treated as equals. If your laws protect your people, they must protect ours too." That night, the Mindari withdrew their fleet from Council Command. The next day, the Quor suspended all military contributions. The Lyran opened direct talks with Terran diplomats. The cracks were now chasms. On Mars, engineers paused their work not out of fear but reflection. They had built weapons, yes, but now they wondered if they could also build bridges. A team at the New Ares yards proposed converting 2 unfinished hulls into hospital ships, ready to serve any wounded human or alien. The request was approved within hours. Captain Eli Dawson received new orders. Instead of patrolling the border, The Air's vanguard was to escort a humanitarian convoy to the neutral world of Vexus, carrying medical supplies and clean water. No weapons, no escorts beyond basic defense, just aid. His crew was surprised. After everything? Lena Cruz asked. Especially after everything, Eli replied. Let them see we're not just guns in the dark. As the ship prepared to depart, a message came from the Veltron fleet. Still technically enemies. It was short. Safe passage granted through Sector 9. No signature. No fanfare. Just a line of code that meant, we see you. Back on Earth, children in Nairobi drew pictures of Terran ships helping alien farmers. In Buenos Aires, schools added lessons on galactic ethics. In Denver, the old man Henry watched the news with his granddaughter. They thought we were loud, he said. Turns out we're just honest. Senator Green met with the Empress in private. The tide is turning, he said. But we must not become what we fought against. We won't, Lydia said. Because we remember who we are, and who they were was not conquerors. Not bullies, not even just survivors. They were humans, flawed, fierce, and finally fully seen. The galaxy had expected rage. Instead, it found restraint. And that was far more dangerous. What Fife the Peace Station, Horizon Accord hung in lunar orbit new and bright against the black. It had been built in just 28 days, fast for any ship, impossible by old standards. But Earth had moved with a quiet urgency, welding hull plates while the galaxy watched and wondered. The station had no weapons, no shields beyond basic protection, just meeting rooms, gardens, and open comms, a place to talk, not fight. For the first time in its history, the Galactic Council did not meet on Xylos Prime. They came to Earth's doorstep, not as judges, not as conquerors. As guests, Empress Lydia Grant arrived in a simple shuttle, no escort, no fanfare. She wore a dark gray uniform with no medals, only the silver leaf of the Terran Empire on her collar. Ambassador Daniel Brooks walked beside her, his face calm after months of tension. Behind them came Admiral Carl Dawson, not in full dress but in service fatigues, ready but not threatening. Inside the main chamber, delegates from 15 species waited. The Cathari were there, but Varel did not speak first. The Veltron envoy Mira Solon rose instead. We have seen much since the Ultimatum, she said. Some of it shames us, some of it surprises us, but all of it teaches us. Lydia took her seat at the round table. No head, no foot, just equals in a circle. She did not wait for permission to speak. We do not want your surrender, she said. We want your partnership, not under your rules, not under ours, but under new ones written together. She laid out a simple plan. A new alliance, not a council, no single species in charge, shared defense, shared knowledge, free passage for all, and one rule above all, no species, no matter how small, would be forced to give up its voice. The Cathari protested at first. This weakens central authority, Varel said. Authority earned by fear is not authority, Lydia replied. It's control, and control breaks. Then something unexpected happened. The Mindari delegate, a soft-spoken botanist named Kale, spoke up. My people grow food for half this galaxy. We have never had a say in peace or war. If this new alliance gives us a voice, we join. One by one, others agreed. The Core, the Lyran. Even the Zenthari Syndicate sent a representative, silent but present. Only the Cathari held out. But without the others, their vote meant nothing. By the end of the day, the old Galactic Council was no more. In its place stood the Terran Compact, a fragile, hopeful thing, built not on power but on promise. That night, Empress Lydia returned to the surface. Her shuttle passed over the Pacific, lights of cities glittering below like fallen stars. She thought of the boy in Chicago, the farmers on Nalthis, the scout Tessa Lynn still recovering in a hospital on Mars. This was for them. Not for glory, for peace that lasted. On the bridge of the Ares Vanguard, Captain Eli Dawson received new orders. His ship was to join the first joint patrol, Terran and Veltron vessels side by side, watching over a trade lane near the Orion Arm. No weapons hot. Just presence. Just trust, Lena Cruz grinned as she checked the comms. Guess we're neighbors now. Looks like it, Eli said. He looked out at the stars, not as threats but as places where new stories could begin. Back on Titan, Maya Ruiz finally left her safe house. The charges against her had been dropped. The Council's old laws no longer applied. She walked through the dome's market, breathing real air filtered through alien-designed plants. A Veltron trader nodded to her. She nodded back. No words needed. In Denver, Henry sat on his porch again. His granddaughter pointed to the sky. "Is that a Terran ship or a Veltron one?" she asked. He squinted. "Doesn't matter anymore," he said. "They're both keeping watch." On Mars, the two hospital ships launched, painted white with green crosses, carrying doctors from Earth, engineers from the Belt, and medics from the core. Their first stop, a Cathari colony hit by a solar flare. No questions asked. No payment expected. Even Senator Paul Green allowed himself a small smile as he read the reports. "Maybe we can build something better," he said to no one in particular. And in the war room beneath the moon, now renamed the Strategy and Diplomacy Center, Admiral Carl Dawson reviewed the new fleet assignments. Fewer battleships, more science vessels, more rescue craft, more hands reaching out than fists raised. The galaxy had given humanity an ultimatum. Humanity had refused to kneel, but it also refused to rule. Instead, it chose to stand, side by side with others under open skies and shared stars. And somewhere in the deep dark, the Ares Vanguard sailed on not as a weapon, but as a promise. Peace was not the absence of war, it was the presence of respect, and Earth had finally earned it.